Well, let's get more on that story for you. Sama Shehata is an Associate Professor of Politics and International Relations at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. What's your reading of the legal process to where we are right now?
Well, I think anybody who's been awake or following Egyptian legal proceedings over the last 2 years knows that the judiciary has been incredibly politicized, and that's to put it lightly. I mean, as you know, over 1,000 people have been sentenced to death. The United Nations and other organizations have condemned the lack of justice in these cases. The proceedings have not been free and fair, and so on. So we have a highly politicized judiciary, but that's only one part of this case, as you know, of course. The other parts are, the other two things I think that are crucial to know is that, of course, there has been an attack on press freedoms, as is obvious also over this period, with Al Jazeera journalists, but other journalists as well who don't work for international companies that are as well known, some in jail and some taken to jail quite recently. And then, of course, the third part of the story is the row or the dispute between Qatar and Egypt since the ouster of Morsi in 2013. So this is international politics. Unfortunately, the victims are the journalists themselves and their lives, and journalism more generally.
Just looking at the actual legal process from here on in, from this day forward, this now goes to the Mufti. The Mufti may or may not go down one way or the other, but regardless of that, when it goes back to the original court that handed down the sentence today, they don't have to take on board what that person says.
That's right. The Mufti's decision on this is non-binding, but at the same time, it's so the Mufti can say no death sentence, but the court does not have to take the Mufti's recommendation and implement it. At the same time, though, just so that we know, of course, since the journalists, some of them were tried in absentia, that in itself complicates the matter, because if they were to return to Egypt, and they're not going to, of course, then they would be given automatically a retrial. Now, as I said, there have been 1,000 people sentenced to death in Egypt and so on. So hopefully, it's unlikely, we think, since this is highly politicized, that these verdicts will actually be executed quite literally.
Sama Shehata, thank you very much.
You're welcome.